Over the past couple of nights, we've embarked on a spiritual journey together, where our goal was to view the mission of Imam Hussain ﷺ through a new lens, one that focuses on self-mastery and perfecting the human spirit. And tonight, inshallah, we're going to build on everything that we've discussed. But before we begin, I want to make a quick recap as per usual, so we can put all the pieces of the puzzle together, inshallah, for the brothers and sisters that weren't here previously, they can stay caught up. If you remember, we began by understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human beings with a purpose. He created them as the Khalifatullah ala al-ard. We said that this isn't just a title, but it's a responsibility and it's a purpose that we have to fulfill and we have to aspire to. And we said that being a Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the ground means to be a reflection, to be a representative of Allah on earth. It means to embody the attributes, the actions and the character of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. تَخَلَّقُوا بِخُلُقِ اللَّهِ, as the narration states. Have the mannerisms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we said to achieve this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put forward for opponents in order to achieve this goal. And we said that the goal is to create harmony. What are these different components? We said we have the mind, we have the body, and we have the heart. We said the mind is the intellectual and the rational faculty. And our belief system. We have the body, which is the different senses, the vessel that we use to interact with the world. And we said the heart, which is the home of our values, our emotional, our feelings, our spiritual state, and so on. And we said if you want to know if you're doing good, if you're fulfilling your purpose, then you have to see, is there harmony between these states? Are you acting upon what you know, and is your heart aligned with what you know? And we said that the ultimate goal, that there's different states of the soul. You know, someone can, his actions, his mind and his heart and his body can be aligned together, but on batil. So the goal isn't just harmony, but harmony towards a specific goal. And we said, the soul that has achieved this pure harmony is an-nafs al-mutma'inna, the tranquil soul, the soul that is at peace. The soul is at ease, the soul that's certain. We gave plenty of examples in the army of Imam Hussain and how it was embodied. And we said the opposite of this. So if the goal is an-nafs al-mutma'inna, the opposite of this is an-nafs al-muttariba, the disturbed soul. The soul, the nafs which is in conflict. The nafs which is in turmoil. And of course we said these are levels. And lastly, last night we completed the talk by saying that our attachment to this dunya, the attachment to this lower world, can be a primary source of this internal conflict that pulls us away from our purpose of being khulafa al-ard. Tonight we want to explore how do we create harmony between these components, and we're going to inshallah draw on a very powerful example from the mission of Imam Hussain, and on the day of Ashura, a powerful example where this is implemented towards the end of the talk. But we want to see what type of harmony are we talking about here? You know, we've mentioned harmony a couple of times now, but it hasn't been practical yet. So as we journey towards trying to be the good, proper representatives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we understand that this harmony doesn't come by chance. It's not something you achieve by accident. This harmony is deliberate, and there's a structured approach to each one of these different components, whether it's the mind or the body or the heart. For example, if we were to look at a car or a computer, any machine that is complex, it has different parts, and these different parts have different programs that work each part. Now, these different systems that we have, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't just say, here, take these resources and become a good reflection of me. I've given you the resources, now use these ingredients and create harmony and become a tranquil soul. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful, is the most kind. He's provided us with 3 interconnected systems, 3 programs that we need to use. 1 program for each one of these components. And inshallah, tonight our goal is to introduce you to these programs, to explain what are these different programs, and then starting from tomorrow night, we'll enter each one of these programs and we'll give specific examples and how we can apply it in our day-to-day life. Inshallah, and goal, by the end of this Muharram, you have now a brand new program upon which you could apply in your life to reach closer to the goal of having a tranquil soul. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So let's begin. The first system, the most important system, and I'm just going to quickly, briefly mention these systems and then we'll go a bit deeper into each one. The first system is the system for the mind. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put a system to straighten the mind's path, to make sure that the mind is doing the right job. And this is what we call al-aqa'id, al-manzuma al-aqa'idiyya, or usul al-din, right? It's the system of our beliefs and our worldview. What is the lens in which we use to view the world? It is the foundation upon which we build all of our knowledge. Yani, a person who believes that God is always watching, let's say he views the world, that Allah, inna Allah yara. This person acts different to the person that doesn't believe that God is watching. If you're driving at night and there's no one seeing you and you throw something outside that's littering, you won't get a fine because no one's watching you. But if you know God is watching you, then you won't throw it because you know that's against your principles. Al-nadafata min al-iman. Cleanliness is from faith. So whether someone is watching or not, it doesn't matter. So we have a theological school, a system. The second system is al-manzuma al-qiyamiyya, meaning the system of values, the system upon which you make sure that the heart is clean, the heart is working properly. And this is what regulates your emotions, what regulates your reactions. When do you have to feel angry? When do you apply anger? When do you feel mercy? And so on and so forth. How do you ensure that your behaviors are working well? How do you overcome guilt? How do you work with guilt? What does guilt mean to you? For example, a value is patience. A person who values patience, like the patience. No one had patience like Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, for example. Imam Ali was known for this quality. A heart which values patience acts differently in this world to a heart that doesn't. And the third system is the system which makes sure, the system which governs our physical existence, our body, our senses. And this is what is called a sharia, the fiqh, our jurisprudence, halal, haram, and so on. So these are the three systems. And don't think they're isolated. Don't think, one system is different to the other system. Or for example, I'll give you an example. This is a good example. For example, in Shahr Ramadan, when you're fasting. Now the fast, there's three elements to the fast. There's the mind, the heart, and the body. If we were to look at fasting just from the aspect of the body, then what you're responsible for is refraining from eating, refraining from drinking from a specific time to a specific time. The things that you can and can't do, the do's and don'ts. But if you were to lie, for example, in Shahr Ramadan, it doesn't break your fast. If you were to not pray, it doesn't break your fast. Does that mean we should go fast and not pray because it doesn't break my fast? Of course not. See, when you look at prayer or when you look at fasting only from the paradigm of jurisprudence or the paradigm of Sharia, then this is what's required of you. But you also have to add the paradigm of the heart. Patience is extremely important. The paradigm of the body, the paradigm of the mind. And inshallah we'll explain this more. But they work together. They're not isolated. They work in synergy. Our beliefs, our aqidah inform our values. You didn't just start saying, I'm going to be clean because it's from my faith. You first believed in God. Then God told you these are values. And then you practiced that with your body. So our aqidah, our mind, it governs it. It applies firstly And then it says, these are my values, these are the values upon which I'm going to live by, these are the principles I'm going to apply in my life, and then I'm going to guide and ensure that my body does and works in accordance to that. When all these three align, when all of these systems and your behaviors in regards to these systems, whether it's the mind, the body, or the heart, when they work and they're working together properly, that's when there's harmony, that's when it's characterized as the tranquil soul. When a person is able to live their whole life, let me put that aside, because that's only the Ma'soom can live the whole life. When a person tries to work as much as they can to embodying this harmony in their life, the closer they are getting to an-nafs al-mutma'inna. Now, I want to go a bit deeper into each one of these. Let's start with the mind. This is the most crucial program, as we mentioned, brothers and sisters. The one that shapes the perception in our worldview and the way we view the world is the most important because it precedes everything else. It comes before everything else. For the children, just so you can understand this, just to make this more clear for you, right? Remember when you used to believe in the tooth fairy, right? Your whole life you believed in the tooth fairy. Oh, the tooth fairy exists. Because you believed in the tooth fairy, you take your tooth and you put it under your pillow. But the moment the mum told you that, no, the tooth fairy doesn't actually exist, did you end up putting the tooth under the pillow? No, because your belief changed. You stopped believing that the tooth fairy does that. Look, I feel like the boys related to the example more. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So, at the heart of our Islamic belief system, at the core of what makes you a Muslim, what differentiates you from every other, person or in other religion, is the concept of Tawheed. At the core is that the absolute oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. And this isn't just a theological concept, something you just believe as well, but it's a lens in which you use to view the whole entire universe. Tawheed is the foundation of our Islamic worldview. It's the starting point that we use to understand our purpose and our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you believe that your origin is one, you come from one, you return to one, you live in this world through the sustenance of one, the power of one, the mercy of one, the guidance of one, that your breath, you don't take a breath unless it's from the knowledge of the one. Tawheed is a crucial. If you think at any moment in time that you are different, that your power, you have power over yourself that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no control over, you're wrong. You have completely went against the foundation of your belief. And that's why, brothers and sisters, I'll give you an example in the story of Nabi Yusuf. Who knows the story of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam? When Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam was in the well, when Nabi Yusuf was in the prison, and the two guards were exiting prison, and he tells one of them, he says, when you go to the Amir, tell him I've been unjustly imprisoned. You know what Nabi Yusuf does for the next couple of days? He cries. He cries for days, and he's feeling guilty, and he's feeling ashamed. Why? He's like, I'm living in this place, I'm living in this world under the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I had the audacity to ask for a human being to help me. I know that God can see me, and I asked for help from someone other than God. Tawheed. The epitome of Tawheed. And when we face challenges, Tawheed is what reminds us to stay grounded. Even in the face of death. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say when you see someone die, cry for months and years He says, say, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Calm down. We're from God. We're going to God. It's the lens in which we use to view the world. Inshallah, we'll go deeper into this in the coming nights as Allah. But so what are the consequences? What is the opposite of Tawheed? What is the opposite of Tawheed? If we said the pure character, the tranquil soul is one that has Tawheed at its highest level in its heart, what is the opposite of Tawheed? Shirk. What is shirk? associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this isn't just a error of the mind, a theological error. This, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains in the Holy Quran, this form of shirk, when you no longer have Tawheed in your heart, when you believe that there are things, there are powers in this world that supersede the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you believe that, when you associate a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you've committed oppression, but oppression and dhulm towards yourself. Because the mind knows that La ilaha illallah. The mind knows it. The mind seeks it. The first creation, in some narrations that we have, one of the first creations was the mind, al-aql. قال له أدبر فأدبر قال له أقبل فأقبل قال له أدبر فأدبر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the mind to come and it came. He told the mind to go and it went. He said, through you people will obey me. Through you people will find me. So the mind seeks God. And when you allow the mind to believe in anything other than God and give partners to God, you're oppressing yourself. It's like trying to quench your thirst with salty water. It only increases in your thirst. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in the Holy Quran? He says, وَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ افْتَرَى عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. And who is more unjust than he who invents a lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? If we were to connect this to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, how would we connect it? Inshallah, I'm going to touch on this towards the end of the talk tonight as well. The idea, the concept of Tawheed in every single action, in every single word. He says in one of his final sermons, he says, in the lead up to Karbala, Allahumma innaka ta'lam annahu lam yakun ma kana minna tanafusan fi sultan wala iltimasan min fudul al-hitam. Oh Allah, you know that what we did was neither out of desire for power nor seeking excess of worldly goods. Tawheed, he knows that Tawheed is what shaped our mission. You, Ya Allah, you shaped our mission. Nothing in this world, nothing in this lower world. Type. This is the mind. Inshallah, tomorrow is where we're going to delve deeper into the mind and so on, and provide practical examples of how you can apply it into your life. The second system or the second framework is the ethical framework. Now, if we were to let's turn our attention to the heart, brothers, where our emotions, our values, our moral compass is. Islam provides us a clear-cut ethical program to ensure that your heart is working in accordance to your fitrah and to your intellect. Your fitrah is that innate, that internal compass that's constantly driving you towards perfection, driving you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the intellect is the mind or the rational mind that you use to see what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad, to differentiate between truth and falsehood. The ethical framework, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put forward for us is what are the values that I need to have to reflect a proper Khalifa. It's like, for example, imagine you told someone, hey, I want you to go to a meeting, I have a meeting, I want you to go on my behalf, yeah? But make sure you take care because this is a very important meeting. And I want you to get these points across and make sure you don't forget to say 1, 2, 3. Hey, and watch out. You're representing me, yeah? So make sure you carry yourself in a respectful manner. So it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us this, you're my khulafa on earth, yeah? I want you to carry yourself. And then what does this person go, the representative that goes to the meeting, he goes and starts joking and jumping around and laughing and, goes in shorts and it's like, what are you doing? I told you you're representing me. Why did you carry yourself like that? You embarrassed me in front of all these people. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you're a representative, you're a Khalifa of mine, there are values, there are principles you have to abide by. Not everyone can just say they're a Khalifa. There are ethical principles you have to apply in your life. Or else you're going to live in disharmony. Or else your heart isn't going to be quenched. It's going to be confused. It's going to be muttariba, as we mentioned earlier. So by following this framework, you're able to experience inner peace. You're able to experience consistency between what you're thinking and between what you're doing. If you know, for example, that I don't steal, you know stealing is a no-go for me. It won't even occur to you to steal, because your principle and your value said no from the beginning. For example, if you are completely against backbiting, you have a trauma against backbiting. You do not like backbiting. You do not allow anyone to backbite in front of you. Number one, it won't occur to you to backbite as a thought. But more than that, if someone's backbiting in front of you, you take initiative to stop it. You say, hold on, please don't do this in front of me. Because you have a value, you have a principle. But imagine the world, brothers and sisters, where there were no values. There were no principles. Anyone can take the haqq of another person. Anyone can backbite and character assassinate another person. Anyone can do anything they want. What a world we live in. And that's where, once you start to stop navigating, once you start to live in this world without a consistent framework, ethical framework, something, principles and values that you live by, that is when you're entering the realm of dhulm. Imam Ali says in Dua Kumail, ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي وَتَجَرَّأْتُ بِجَهْلِي. ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي وَتَجَرَّأْتُ بِجَهْلِي. I have wronged myself, I have been audacious in my own ignorance. Imam Ali is teaching us here the ethics of dua, the akhlaq of dua. He's saying when you stray against the needs of the heart, you're oppressing yourself. And we gave the examples. The example of lying, for example. Ibn Sina, the great philosopher Ibn Sina, he says, one of my teachers shared this with me a while back. He says, the liar does not see any truthful dreams. This is very interesting. He says, a person that lies doesn't see any dream that's truthful. Because his nafs, or we could say his subconscious mind even, his nafs has been painted with lies. So it only shows him lies. It no longer shows truth. On the opposite side, who do we have? Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, who is a Siddiq, who was the interpreter of dreams, who sees truth because he's truthful. And you start to see the interplay between these things, between the ethics and the values of the heart and its application when it comes to the knowledge of the mind. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If you want to measure yourself, if we want to right now measure, how are we doing? Like in terms of our journey as khulafa of God on earth, how am I doing? Like, how close am I to an-nafs al-mutma'inna and how close am I to an-nafs al-muttariba? What do? We look at Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and we measure our actions according to Rasulullah, because he is the epitome of perfection. Sah wala la? Rasulullah is the epitome of perfection. We are trying to get to that. Now, look at what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi says. He says, listen to the powerful hadith. He says, أَبْعَدُكُمْ بِي شَبَهًا. The furthest of you in resemblance of me. The furthest. Who are they? Al-Bakhil, Al-Badhi', Al-Fahish. The furthest of you. So if you want to know whether you resemble Rasulullah, he says, the furthest of you are the stingy, the crude, meaning the foul mouth, the ones that always swearing. I see people looking at each other in the crowd. And the immoral. The one that doesn't have akhlaq. The one that doesn't have values. The one that doesn't have principles. This hadith, what does it do? It creates a practical measure that you can use. Am I a bakhil? How am I using my tongue? How am I using? Am I swearing a lot? Am I constantly making disrespectful, rude jokes in front of people? Do I have strong values or no? Do I have values? Do I have principles? It reminds us that our ethics and our ethical conduct, our behaviors, they are a reflection of how close or how far we are from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's move to the third system. This is extremely important, brothers and sisters. Please tune in with me on this. The physical realm, the domain of our body, the domain of our senses, the domain of our actions. Our bodies are remarkable instruments, brothers and sisters. They're gifted to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like we said, في أحسن تقويم, in the greatest of forms, in the greatest of statures, in the greatest of molds. The mold of the human being is remarkable. And our potential for action is also remarkable. There's so much that we can do right now. There are so much that you can do, or even though there's a lot of constraints in this physical world, but with this body, like right now, you could take off your clothes and walk in the middle of the road. Can you do that? Will you do that? No. But can you do that? Yes. You can right now go to the restaurant and eat and drink and dance and do whatever you want. You can drive 160 kilometers per hour on a 50 kilometer per hour road in school zone, in peak hour traffic. You can. Actually, no, not in peak hour traffic because it won't work. But you can. Technically, theoretically, you can. But you won't. Why won't you? Why won't you just do whatever the heck it is that you want to do with your body? Why won't you? See, the body can do these things, but it won't, because inherently you know some of these actions are good, some of these actions are bad, some of these actions are acceptable, some of these actions are socially unacceptable. So you can understand that these actions can be divided into good and bad, what I can and can't do, inherently. And this is why we are in need of a law, a system. Because our bodies don't inherently differentiate between what's good and bad. Hello, if I put meat in front of you, you don't know whether I should eat halal or I should eat haram, or your body doesn't know that. Your body says, I'm hungry, I can smell meat. It doesn't know that the heart needs pure food and that the mind knows that it has to check whether this food is haram or halal or not. It knows, I have food, I eat food. So if we were to leave everyone without a system, everyone to apply that in this world, live in this world, and just try and figure out what's good and bad for your body according to yourself, what would happen? Havoc. Because one person might say, yeah, you know what, I want to drive 80 kilometers per hour on a 50 or 50 kilometer road. I want to. Another person says, nah man, that's too fast. I'm going to drive 60. Another person says, no, I'm going to drive 40. And you start, every single person wants to have their own law. But the problem is, we live in a society. And God didn't create us ignorant that the fact that we live in a society. He created us as social beings. He created us and He knows that we are in societies. He creates us equipped for societies. Now, because our physical existence is in this society, our physical existence must be tamed. It must be nurtured. It must be controlled. I'll give you an example. Please accept this example for me. I'm sorry, it's a disgusting example, but inshallah, it will bring light to the issue right now. Imagine, right now, you have a person who is filled with lust and desire. And he has no spiritual law, no ethical law, and no physical law, no law that is controlling his and taming his physical body. But he's filled with lust and desire. He's driving down the road and he sees a female at 2 o'clock in the morning by herself walking on the street. What is to restrain him from doing this to something to her? If he does not have true understanding of limitations, what I can do, what I can't do. If a person says, there's no God, there's no hereafter, no one's watching, I don't care, I'm entitled to do whatever I want, and he does this, and who's going to hold me accountable? You say, hold on a second, Habib, what are you doing? There are red lines, there are do's and don'ts. And so, if we're going to leave everyone to create a law based on their own lust and their own desire and their own limited nature, each person will come up and will create a different law. Disgusting laws, immoral laws, laws that can bring about oppression and dhulm towards society. So the law that has to be important has to be a system which is unified, that protects not only the needs of the individual, but the needs of the society at large. Everyone within the society. Regardless of just the individual needs, but looking at the general needs of the society. This is where the Sharia comes in. This is where the Sharia comes in, which is the divine law that organizes our physical actions, that organizes our societal interactions. For example, you might say riba, usury. What's the problem with usury? It doesn't affect anyone. If I have riba, if I make money through riba, I'm not affecting anyone. But what happens to society? See, on an individual level, maybe, but on a societal level, it's huge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at the society and says, riba is going to cause oppression in this society. It might not affect person X and person Y, but on a bigger level, on a more zoomed out level, it's going to impact everyone. So the Sharia comes in, and even the smartest people on earth, if you were to bring a room, get the smartest people that have ever lived on earth, put them in a room, they can't devise a system for your mind, heart and body. They can't. They don't know. They didn't create the mind or the body or the heart. They don't know what the heart needs and what the body needs and what the spirit needs and what the soul needs and what the mind needs. They're living the experience just like you and I. The system that is there to ensure that these faculties are working properly, the system that is there to govern this body, this limited vessel, this physical vessel, must be the one that created the vessel. It has to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He has knowledge of the intricacies of the needs of every part of this vessel. Whereas one person might be looking at their own desire and their own lust, one might be looking at out of greed, one might be looking out of so on and so forth. And so the Sharia is a divine gift. It's there, it's tailored to help us be khulafa, help us be proper representatives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to uphold the character that we need to uphold. And the further we stray from this, the further we stray from our Sharia, the more we begin to oppress ourselves once again. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, He says, Surah 65 verse 1, He says, وَتِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يَتَعَدَّى حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ. وَتِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ. There are limits, and these are the limits that are set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he who transgresses these limits has certainly wronged himself. ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي. Now, inshallah, final point, and we'll conclude. Thank you very much for your patience, my brothers and sisters. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As we draw towards the end of this discussion, I want to reflect on a crucial aspect of this journey. And I've mentioned it a few times in this talk. ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي. Oppressed myself. And this crucial aspect is the importance of taking care of yourself, self-care in Islam. Because you might be thinking, all right, I get what you're saying, Muhammad, what you're saying makes sense, but what does it matter if I oppress myself? Right? Like, as long as I'm not harming other people. I've heard this a lot. Well, this person doesn't harm other people, Yeah, he does this, but he doesn't harm other people. He just harms himself. What's the problem with that? See, the problem with that, my brothers and sisters, is there's a fundamental misunderstanding of yourself. Is up until now, you haven't viewed yourself as a Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because as a Khalifa of Allah, your goal is to reach your full potential. Allah cares about whether you oppress yourself or not. That's what's important. Your self-development and your self-care truly matters to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Neglecting yourself is like telling Allah, I'm sorry, I'm not good enough for the task you gave me. I'm just going to give up. I know you made me a Khalifa, you gave me all these different components and these different, thank you very much, I appreciate it, but I'm not good enough, I'm just going to give up, I'm just going to do my own thing. That's what you're saying to God. It's like, no, hold on. I created you with a purpose. I want you to take care of yourself. And there's a Quran, this is the ayah that touches on this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَ وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction, into turmoil, and do good. Indeed, Allah loves the doers of good. It's not just about physical harm. Any form of neglect, self-neglect, self-destruction, spiritual destruction, moral decay, any of this is a form of self-oppression. And this is where Islam says no. And I'm going to give you a beautiful example, inshallah, and then we'll go to Karbala. Imam Khomeini, Quddus Sirruhu Sharif, rahmatullahi alayhi, when he was exiled in France, and he was in the midst of establishing the Islamic revolution, he had an interview with a journalist. And this journalist asks him, he says, what's so special about the Islamic government? What's so special about this government that you're trying to establish? What's different between Islam and all the other social and liberal movements? Listen to the words, brothers and sisters, please listen to the words of Imam Khomeini. Listen to what he says. He says, in liberal, socialist or communist authorities, the definition of a person is that of a good citizen. However, in Islam, citizenship is a social matter. In the mentioned social systems, so liberalism or socialism or communism, they do not care about the individual as an individual, but only as a good citizen who serves the system. Whereas in Islam, the human being is the focal point. And the goal is to nurture the complete human being who serves society and all of humanity. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Other systems don't care what you do in private. You steal from this person, you do this, you do that. Wallah, you get drunk, you drink alcohol, you gamble. I don't care. Do whatever you want, just don't disrupt society. They see you as a citizen. Islam sees you as Allah's Khalifa ala al-ard. Inni ja'alun fil ardi khalifa. Islam cares about your total development. Islam guides you in the private aspects of your life because it sees you as a complete human being. It sees all of these different components and systems within you. Not just as a social entity. Like even to the extent where, how do you enter the bathroom? And how do you exit the bathroom? Islam goes into those details. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam's mission was not just about political reform or social reform. It was about preserving the integrity of the human soul. Imam Hussain stood up against a system that reduced people to subjects. Yazid and Banu Umayyah were reducing people to subjects. They used people however they want. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, brothers and sisters, was the epitome of Tawheed. Now, I just want to recap what we've spoken about and see and draw this to a close with one of the powerful sermons from Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So far, my brothers and sisters, tonight we've discovered, or we've explored the different interconnected systems that exist within us. We said we have the system for the mind, which is the system which is rooted in Tawheed, our aqa'id, which shapes our worldview. We said that we have a system of the heart, which is the ethical framework to align our emotions and our behaviors and our values. And we have for the body our jurisprudential framework, which is our fiqh and the sharia. And this is the practical implementation of our beliefs and our values. And these systems, when they work in harmony, they lead us to be true khulafa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or representatives of Allah on earth. See, Imam Hussain alayhi salam embodied this perfectly. On the day of Ashura, he embodied this perfectly. Whether it was Tawheed, whether it was his character and his moral standards, whether it was adhering to the Sharia. He would not leave Salat even to the last final moment. He would stop the battle to pray. So let's see what Imam Hussain alayhi salam says. Powerful, powerful sermon. We started in the beginning of the talk. He says, "Oh Allah, you know that what we did was neither out of desire for power, nor seeking excess of worldly goods, but to practically demonstrate the teachings of your religion, to bring about reform in your lands, so that the oppressed among your servants may feel safe, and your rules, your commandments, and your judgments may be acted upon." Look what it illustrates. The purity of intention, the mind, the ethical motivation, the heart, and the commitment to implementing divine law, Sharia, the body. Three of them applied in a couple of sentences for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And hala, inshallah, we're going to go into one of the most profound stories, if you would allow me, in Karbala, that addresses this interconnectedness. The story of Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi illustrates this journey of transformation and this self-discovery and the return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we've been discussing perfectly. And it's a story that many of us can relate to in certain aspects. Many of us can learn from and help guide us. And I want you to picture the scene. It's the morning of Ashura. To remind you, Hur, if you don't remember, Hur, as we mentioned a few nights ago, is the one that stopped Imam al-Hussain outside of Kufa. We said when Imam Hussain was approaching Kufa, Ubaidullah sent a commander with 1,000 men to stop Imam al-Hussain and make sure he does not enter Kufa. Hur was this man, the man that stopped Imam al-Hussain from drinking water, the man that maneuvered Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam towards Karbala, the man that would not allow Imam Hussain to return, the man that caused oppression to the grandchildren of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is who we're talking about. Hur ibn Yazid, on the morning of Ashura, the army of Yazid stands. They're ready for battle. It's about to begin. Hur, a brave general, full of courage, was the reason why he was a general. Up until this moment, he believed that his mission was merely just to stop Imam al-Hussain from entering Kufa. Not to participate in killing and slaughtering the children and the grandchildren of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but just to stop them. But as this dawn is coming, he's realizing, hold on a second, no. This is a man, now he's grappling with internal conflict. He realizes, no, we're about to kill Hussain ibn Ali. We're about to kill the grandson of Rasulullah. And so he's grappling with his internal conflict. This conflict that we've been discussing. His body is ready. His body is trained for battle. But his heart is now questioning, hold on a second, I'm going to start and I'm going to fight against the grandson of Rasulullah. This is against my values. This is against my beliefs. A companion notices Hur. He looks at him and he stands. He says, what's going on? If I was asked to name who's the bravest man in Kufa, I would say it's Hur, it's you. What's going on, Hur? Why is your color changing from yellow to green to purple? Listen to the reply of Hur. Brothers and sisters, this is a statement that I want you to remember, because this is a statement that you are going to embody in your life. When you are presented with this stance, he says, by Allah, Hur, I am trying to choose between heaven and hell, and I swear I will never pick anything over heaven, no matter what happens. This is where we see everything that we've spoken about, brothers and sisters, culminates in this line. The mind recognized the truth of Imam Hussein's position. The heart felt the weight of guilt and pull towards haqq and truthfulness. And the body starts to tremble as it starts to act on this realization. As Hur makes his decision, he mounts his horse to ride towards Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And you see this manifestation. Now the harmony is beginning to create itself between his beliefs, between his values, between his actions. Imagine in those few moments, that horse ride between where he was to Imam al-Hussein, those 2 minutes. Imagine what Hur was thinking. Imagine what Hur was feeling. I was the one that stopped the grandson of Rasulullah from drinking water. Imagine the heartbreak. When you go to your parents right now and you've done something wrong, how guilty do you feel? This is a man that stopped the grandson and the grandchildren of Rasulullah from drinking water for days. He arrives at the feet of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, broken. He calls out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Peace be upon you, Ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Rasulullah. O son of the messenger, I am the one who stopped you. I am the one who stood in your path. I am the one that has led to this battle. I am Hur, Ya Aba Abdullah. By Allah, he says, I never imagined it would come to this, Ya Aba Abdullah. I am filled with regrets. I am filled with sorrow. Can you forgive me, Ya Aba Abdullah? The narration states his voice was shaky. He couldn't even put two sentences together. Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, what does he reply? Imam Hussain alayhi salam is showing us the path to forgiveness. He's showing us he is a manifestation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Imam al-Hussain is going to reply with the reply I am about to share with you to a man like Hur, then anything that we have ever done in life, brothers and sisters, this is the reply of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, yes, Ya Hur. If your repentance is sincere, Allah will forgive you. I have forgiven you, Ya Hur. Come down from your horse. May Allah forgive you. Hur stays on his horse. He says, Sayyidi. See, Hur doesn't just say, thank you, Abu Abdullah, thank you for forgiveness. He says, I want to follow through on my behavior. I want to follow through on my repentance. He says, Master, may I be the first to fight in your army. May I be the first to be a martyr. Let me be the first to die for you, Ya Abu Abdullah. Imam al-Hussain nodded. He says, do what you deem best. May Allah have mercy upon you. Hur charged into battle. His voice was a clear warning to the enemy. He speaks to the enemy. He tells them, oh enemy, do you know who I am? I am Hur. I was just with you moments ago. He pleads with them. He says, we're fighting the son of Rasulullah, the grandson of Rasulullah. No one listens to Hur. He drew his sword and he begins reciting these verses. Inni ana al-hur wa ma'wal dayfi أضربوا في أعناق
يحققون بالسيف عن خير من حل بأرض الخيف أضربكم ولا أرى من حيفي. Indeed, I am al-Hur, the protector of the guest, striking at your throats with a sword and no jest, in the honor of the noblest who graced this earth's crest. I strike without fear in the face of your unrest. Relentless in battle, he slew till the foes fell thick. His horse was struck down, he fought on his feet. They swarmed up upon him, their numbers grew, until he fell to the ground, a hero through and through. What does he say? He cries out, Assalamu alayka, Ya Aba Abdullah. Sayyidi adrikni. He says, peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah. My master, come to my aid. Hussein, peace be upon him, rushed to his side, not delayed. In another tale, his comrades carried him till he was placed in Hussein's side, as the sand embraced the night. Hussein wiped the dust from his face. He whispers words of consolation. Rejoice, O Hur, in your martyrdom's elevation. He continued, هنيئا لك يا حر هذه الشهادة. وهو يقول أنت حر كما سمتك أمك حرا، حر في الدنيا وسعيد في الأخرى. You are indeed free, as your mother named you right, free in this world, O Hur, blessed in the afterlife side. Then Hussein began to recite with a sorrow so profound, and so it went, and so it went. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, at each martyr's side, every comrade who fell with him, they confided their last goodbye. Each time one departed, bidding their final peace. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, a call that would never cease. Hussein would respond with a voice heavy with grief. Wa alayka salam, we will soon follow, our journey will be brave. He recites the words of Allah. منهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبديلا. Some have fulfilled their destiny, others still wait patiently, and they have not changed in the least until the last of them had ceased. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is now alone. Picture this, my brothers and sisters, on the 10th day of Muharram, on the day of Ashura, Imam al-Hussein looks to his left and looks to his right. He stood alone, looking left and right. His companions have fallen in their final earthbound plight. He calls out, O champions of the just, O knights of Allah, why do I call you and you do not answer? Is it sleep that's claimed you, that you do not hear my plea? Or has your affection waned, leaving your Imam lonely? But alas, destiny's ill had struck you down, betrayed by fate's cruel and treacherous frown. A lament in his voice, breaking hearts around. Imagine Zainab listening to her brother Hussain uttering these words. Oh Habib ibn Mudahir, oh Zuhair ibn al-Qain, Ya Hilal ibn Naib, Ya Muslim ibn Awsaja, Ya Hurr al-Riyahi. His call echoes and echo, his cause echo, resonating in the silent air, but no one answers, no one else is there. Imam Hussain stands alone, no companions in his sight. In the face of tyranny, he pressed for his final fight. دمع العين يهدي لكم السلام. في خلوة القلب الحزن يعلن القيام. قد سقطوا كالفراش الذهبي، واحدا تلو الآخر في غابات الرماد. لكن الحسين وحيدا مغادى، في عينيه الألم، قلوب ترتعد. وحيدا غريبا لا صاحب لا معين له، وقف على ساحة كربلاء شهيدا ظمآنا.